Yeah.
Hey guys, today I am very excited to bring you my review of, for the 50th anniversary, the 1973 classic martial arts film Enter the Dragon, directed by Robert Clouse, starring the legendary Bruce Lee, John Saxon, and Jim Kelly. This film, actually, I was very, very fortunate to have seen this the other day for the 50th anniversary screening through Fathom Events, and I've been wanting to see this for years. This has literally been on my watch list for 5 years. So it's about time that I finally checked out Bruce Lee in action. You know, you hear so much about Bruce Lee throughout the years, and his mythos is so large at this point in time. You know, hearing about him and seeing him are two entirely different things. And so I was really glad to have the opportunity. I knew I had to see this on a big screen. And I'll tell you guys, I think I made the right decision because I get it. I mean, this movie is awesome. And I recently have been getting into some more martial arts films. Like maybe I'll have to do a whole review on this at some point, but I just watched Police Story this year for the first time, and I've watched it twice since, with Jackie Chan, of course, and that film is absolutely incredible. And I do want to preface before I get into this review, because, you know, as I said, you know, Bruce Lee is a huge legend in martial arts and film, etc. In life, I mean, this dude was, maybe he was almost like a god, you know, but still a man, obviously, and you know, passing at age 32 of Lee was really a huge blow to the industry, and shows down how easy it could be to take down someone at the top of their power, and I think that must be addressed before I go in to this review, because I do prefer films like Police Story from Jackie Chan. I think I like Jackie Chan a bit better as a martial artist and as a filmmaker, because obviously Bruce Lee didn't direct this one, but on the same token, I like the stunts that Jackie Chan employed more. I think he was pulling from many different influences, like Bruce Lee, of course, so, you know, we got to give credit where credit's due, but also, you know, Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd and all that stuff. But I mean, still, this movie is awesome, and I absolutely love, just from the beginning when you're at the Shaolin Temple, the sequence that Lee himself actually directed. And speaking of director Robert Clouse, he has such a great eye for these action sequences. No, he's not deaf, like everyone else says, like Leonard Maltin said at the beginning of the screening. So I'm surprised someone like him would have said that, but, you know, it's not true. He was a hearing person. And, but regardless, Lee directed this opening sequence, and it really sets off his character so well. And you really get a lot of his personal philosophy throughout this movie, especially throughout the sequence when he's talking to his mentor, when he's talking to his mentoree. You really get some really beautiful words of wisdom from Lee here, and you can really tell in his style of fighting that is truly his philosophy and what he believed in. But I just love the structure of this film, because it really is kind of like a spy espionage, you know, thriller, kind of in the vein of James Bond, which I know was a big influence, but also taking elements of blaxploitation film at that time as well. And the thing I love about it is it really does feel like a very gritty R-rated Bond movie with martial arts. And I would say it's better than any of the Bond movies from that era. Let's just be straight up. And maybe that is because of how it is structured, because of course this is another big drawing, you know, factor to the movie at this time. It had 3 different main characters from different races, of course. You know, Lee was Chinese, and John Saxon, who's American, absolute legend, rest in peace, by the way, and the late Jim Kelly as well, you know, kind of filling in for the black audience. And you really had this very culturally diverse blend of leads that, you know, each group could latch onto. And I think for the time, that was really, really forward thinking, and I absolutely love what they do with them. And they all have very distinct personalities. Like John Saxon's character, he's a gambling addict. He went to Vietnam. Same thing with Jim Kelly. He's in Vietnam. He's dealing with some racial prejudice at home, and it kind of slips into his philosophy. Well, like there's one line where they're passing like on the boat, and they pass like this ghetto in the water, and he's like, ghettos are the same all over, and it's subtle in that way, because it doesn't take over the whole film, but I like hearing that sort of stuff because it humanizes them before they go to this island to enter this competition. Of course, hosted by the villainous Han, played by Shi Qian, who is such an amazing villain in this. I really just love how dark this film gets. Like, this film is not messing around at all, and I didn't expect it to go as hard as it does, especially with some of the visuals here. That's what I'm saying. It really does feel like an R-rated, gritty version of a Bond movie in the best ways possible, and I think that's what makes it stand out. These characters, the structure, and the way they reveal stuff through flashbacks as well. But really, it's the fighting you come to see, and I definitely think it delivers in a lot of ways. Maybe not as much as I was expecting, but I think considering, Bruce Lee's style, it is a bit more cerebral. And even so, you get some really amazing fight sequences, like the one with him and the late Bob Wall. And of course, this is a classic movie, so I'm going to spoil it a little bit. But it's revealed at the beginning that he had killed his sister. And so essentially that fight where he threatens him with the bottles, and then Bruce Lee is just like jumping all around, and then just jumps on his neck and lets out this growl. I mean, it is just so visceral. It is the athleticism from Lee. I've never seen anything quite like it, in the way he's flipping around doing all these different stunts. But he's just such a resourceful character too, and I think that's why you latch onto Lee in this movie. Especially when he's like kind of sleuthing around at night, trying to infiltrate this base that he obviously was set out to do from the beginning. And I just love like the certain scenes, like of course if you've seen the movie, the scene where he captures the snake in a bag, and then he uses it later to put into the control room to scare the guys out of there. It's like, wow, that's some really incredible stuff, because I'm assuming the snake, I'm not going to say it was poisonous, because I feel like that's a bit of a liability legally. But then again, Bruce Lee was doing it. He knew what he was getting into, and he was really kind of the creative visionary behind a lot of this movie. And of course, all the stunts were choreographed by him. And also, I just love how badass Bruce Lee is every time he opens his mouth. He's one of those characters in this film, especially where he's observing everything around him, and he only speaks when he needs to. And I think that kind of increases his badassery in a sense. And of course, when he says lines like this.
Boards don't hit back.
I mean, come on! It's so simple, yet it's so effective. Like, you completely understand that this guy was a complete badass on and off the screen, and I think that appeals to part of the reason why his legacy is so huge. I mean, just an amazing talent from top to bottom. But it really does go into some very dark places, talking about, kind of this opioid peddling that's been going on this island, and kind of like inundating these women with opioids, and then having them wash up on the beach. One thing I will say, the plot doesn't always come together quite in the most cohesive way. Like, it works well enough, right, for you to, fully get into the film and love it. But that is a big problem for me. At least it's one that is slightly noticeable. I think the biggest problem for me, though, is the dubbing in this, which is absolute poo-poo. I mean, especially at the beginning of the film, yeah, you're not going to get the best dubbing you've ever seen. It might even be worse than Italian movies, which is really saying a lot from that era. But, it doesn't pop up all the time, and of course the dubbing for the main villain, it's quite good. But just seeing how ruthless Han is in this movie, especially, of course, spoilers, in the scene where he kills Jim Kelly's character, and showing the aftermath of what he does to him is really a haunting image that you probably won't forget. But my goodness, this film has everything. It has the stunts, it has the choreography. There's even a scene where Bruce Lee manhandles a young Jackie Chan, and I heard Jackie Chan said he wanted to hold on to him forever. Like, he was his idol, obviously, and the fact that he did get to work with Bruce Lee was amazing. Because can you imagine if Bruce Lee had lived on and made movies with Jackie Chan? I mean, come on, like, you couldn't beat that. But I really do love so much about this movie. The score from the legendary Lalo Schifrin is absolutely amazing. The way he fused like funk and you know, these sort of Chinese sort of, you know, Eastern sounds. It really was something that hadn't been done before, and kind of like created a whole genre of music within itself. And you got to give a lot of credit to that man for all the work he's done in his lifetime. Just absolute living legend. But of course, you know, you got to talk about the ending fight sequence, which I think is just so incredible, and yet again very, very cerebral. But even before you get to the whole mirror sequence, which is probably one of the most iconic moments in the entire movie, just the fight between him and Han in the trophy room is incredible. The fight in the courtyard is amazing. Of course, when he's like swapping his hands, it's kind of ridiculous and campy, but you completely buy into it, because it's like, who's going to have this insanely lavish island where they're giving these guys like prostitutes, and like it's just a crazy concept to begin with. But something about the direction and the way the story unfolds, you just roll along with it, you know, because there is a story there, albeit there's, you know, more martial art films that have a slightly better story, like a Police Story, for example. But my goodness, the fighting sequence between the two of them at the end is amazing. And then, of course, you know, the very psychological thing with the whole mirrors, and, you know, the mirror maze and him having to smash the mirror. I mean, it really, it's so tense. The tension is so pent up in that scene, and it just kind of unfolds in such a marvelous way. And you can't help but have your eyes glued to the screen for this entire sequence. And of course, you know, that iconic image of Bruce Lee with the scratches on his face, across his chest, and then later on his back. I mean, you don't get much more iconic than that. And it's just crazy to think that this would have been the film that, well, it was the film that broke him out to an international audience, but he didn't get to live to see that. And it's really unfortunate. But I think to have created such an impact where in your death you become an icon overnight, and really transcend death in that sense, I think it's an incredible testament to Lee as a performer, as well as an artist. I mean, this really is art, the way he moves, the way this film is constructed. It's just really one of the most badass martial arts movies of all time. And while it might not be my favorite, it certainly is the most iconic and absolutely one of the best. So yeah, guys, I am going to give Enter the Dragon an 8.5 out of 10. Gotta love this movie. You know, gotta love Bruce Lee. I'm really excited to watch his other stuff now, because this really has given me a bit of a Bruce Lee fever, if you will. And yeah, I can't wait to see what else was in his filmography in his very, very short career, but one that has really stood the test of the time and made him an absolute all-time legend. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about Enter the Dragon, if you've seen it. I assume a lot of you have. And go see it tomorrow in theaters at Regal or wherever it is. It should be around 7 p.m. So if you have the time to go see it, please, I implore you to check this out if you haven't already. Or if you've seen it already and love it, go back again. Why not take the opportunity to see it on a big screen? Maybe for the first time. I know my audience is a little bit younger than that, to have seen Enter the Dragon back in '73 when it was released. But if you like what I'm doing here, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. So much more great content and movie reviews coming very soon, like a very lesser known movie that I saw waiting to see Enter the Dragon. I had some time to kill. I went and saw Jules starring Ben Kingsley. Very excited to talk about that sometime this week. And yeah, guys, until the next video, I will see you later.